Welcome to The Clean Truth, where we like to call bullshit on the status quo. What is up? Welcome to another episode of The Clean Truth. I'm Don. I'm your host. We fired Red again. She's gone.
She's out of here.
She argued with me too much on the last episode, so I kicked her ass off. Today, well, before we get into the episode, I want to announce again, keep an eye out for the We Change Lives Challenge with Clean Eatz. That thing launches January 1st, so just be on the lookout. We're getting ready to put some more information out about it. I'm pretty excited, pretty pumped up, ready for this thing to start again. It was a good time last year, helped a lot of people, so I'm looking forward to see what it does this year. Today, on the podcast, we have the Silver Fox.
Appreciate it.
Former head of strength and conditioning for UNCW.
Correct.
Current, what is your job here now? What would we say?
Director of Project Management.
There you go. That sounds official.
Like it.
Yeah. Ben Fleming. Today, dude, I want to talk about the big three. And we were talking about this in a conversation the other day, and I thought it would be a good episode. So that's why I wanted to have you on here, pick your brain on it. You're obviously very experienced in not only training other people, but a lot of athletes. And so I'm going to kind of talk about the way the big three, and the big three, what I'm talking about is the squat, the bench, and the deadlift.
For sure.
And we were talking about how, actually we just brought it up at breakfast this morning too. Bodybuilding, as long as I didn't do a lot of these three. I didn't have to. It's not that I didn't have to, it's that I kind of stayed away from them out of fear of injury. And I was able to grow my physique without them to a point to where it was almost a fault. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
I didn't build good enough stabilizer muscles. And I did a lot of isolation work, which in turn, I cramped up a lot. Wasn't developing muscles in certain areas. Just wasn't good. I should have incorporated these three into a lot of my training back then, and I wouldn't have some of the injuries, I don't think, that I have now. Or nagging. I shouldn't say injuries. They're not really injuries, but certain things would
aches
nag.
And pains.
Yeah, aches and pains. I think these three are basically the foundation builders. And I think one of the best things that I ever did was when I kind of just said, fuck it, and went back and started from scratch at the Hybrid Athlete gym here in Wilmington with my buddy Tony, and completely just started over and learned how to squat all over again.
Right.
I mean, I knew how to squat. I knew form, what to do and how to do it, but I think it was more or less the setup and the mental approach to it that he helped me out with. But like I was telling you guys at breakfast this morning, I think when I started doing it with you guys on a regular basis and focusing more on form, functionality, and getting stronger is when I stopped having to go to the chiropractor. My back stopped hurting.
Yep.
My knees feel better, other than, being beat to shit from Squatober.
Right.
But, no sore knees, no sore elbows. My nagging injuries are getting less and less the more I keep doing these things.
For sure.
And I just started out light. You know what I mean? Like, I kind of checked my ego at the door. I've kind of mentioned that on here before. Wasn't worried about the weight and just worried about doing the motion the right way.
Right.
And I think it's helped me. But some of the advantages for me is I know it's kept my testosterone higher. I'm over 40, which I think that's what it does for every middle-aged person.
Right.
And I'm talking about, not a college athlete at the moment. Your average everyday Joe doing squats, deadlifts, and benches is going to keep your testosterone high.
Right.
It's going to boost
Total
it.
body movements.
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
I've been able to maintain most of my mass that I built in bodybuilding for 10 years, I think, doing this. It's definitely improved my core strength, stability and balance. And then I even got ego down here.
Yeah.
And I'm not talking about ego as in like acting like a badass. I'm talking about confidence.
For sure.
Walking into a gym and just knowing that I can squat and I can dead and I can bench.
And you keep getting better at those. Shoot, in the last 2 years that I've known you.
Right.
Like you said, with the approach that you've taken and the kind of like the slow walk that you've taken like towards all three of those, like you said, you're still getting stronger at your current age and starting to feel even better as you get stronger. And
Right.
you're not even pushing it to an uncomfortable limit, I guess you could say.
And that's what I want to encourage you guys to do. If you're scared to do these, one, because you don't know how, or two, because you feel like you have, a previous injury that you can't squat.
Right.
I used that excuse for years.
Right.
That was always my excuse. I can't squat. I can't deadlift. I got a bad lower back. Completely fucking false.
Yeah.
Completely false. I was just using that as a crutch. So don't do that. I feel like if you're just getting started in the gym, and not really knowing the right step or the right move to make, start with those three.
For sure.
Build
Simple.
off of those three. That's your foundation. We talk a lot about that in those Alpha 40 tutorial videos that we just started doing too,
Yep.
to help, guys and gals who aren't experienced lifters and don't really know where to start. That's kind of why we started doing that, was to help these guys, learn some of these basic movements. Building on that, that's what I just kept doing. And then I kept using different, accessory work that I learned bodybuilding just in the gym, cable movements to build on top of those big three. But right now, even the training that you and I do every morning, it's focused around one of those three.
Exactly. Start with that.
Correct. Like I said, it's improved my back. I don't go, you asked me which chiropractor I use this morning.
Yeah, you were going about a year ago, and I just ran into a nice guy the other day that was a chiropractor, and it reminded me, you were going every other week for a little while there.
Yeah.
And you were almost to the point where you're like, man, I've got to go get adjusted, or I can't keep going on with my normal daily life. And
because I wasn't making myself stronger. I
Right.
wasn't improving those ailments. I wasn't working on my core. I wasn't strengthening the muscles around my back.
And when we say core, you laugh when we say oh, should we throw some sit-ups into the mix or anything like that?
Yeah.
We're not doing crunches and sit-ups. We're doing loading our spine and loading our body in different ways for our core stability.
What do you think is the easiest way to learn how to deadlift for somebody that doesn't know how to do it? Would you tell them to start out with a conventional pull or a sumo? I know what I would tell them to do. I don't know what I did, but if you have a new athlete walk in the gym.
Well, the first thing they need to understand is how they can hip hinge. And there's so many people that don't know how to, arch their lower back and hip hinge properly. So I think you have to
Explain the hip hinge.
Explain what a hip hinge is correctly. So many times you just see people bend over to pick something up with a big rounded cat back. Well, it's if you can help them understand that aspect first, then picking up something off the ground like a deadlift will kind of follow suit from there. So I think a conventional deadlift is the easier technique if you're talking about maybe a sumo deadlift. I know a lot of gyms are adding, hex bars and trap bars into those gyms. I think that's a very good beginner place to start because it's going to naturally put you in a better body position with your hands out to your sides. So that's kind of how I would start.
I know for me, when I started doing it, and when I say that I never deadlifted the whole time that I was competing as a bodybuilder, literally it means I might have deadlifted in 10 years 3 times.
Right.
Never, ever did it. I always used hyper extensions, the hyper machines, any which way I could do to keep myself stabilized and train my lower back. That's what I did.
Right.
And it was just me being a pussy. It was just, I just never wanted to do it because I was always scared to get hurt.
Right.
I hurt my back as a carpenter when I was younger, and I just was gun shy. I never really wanted to do it. But, I remember asking Tony to help me get started, and, he put me in a sumo squat first because I had really shitty hip mobility.
Right. Good point.
Taught me some different exercises to basically open up my hips and get those stretched out. But then working from a sumo position first, I think it helped me strengthen my hip flexors quite a bit.
For sure. It's definitely a completely different movement. Yes, the exercise is called the same thing. It's a sumo deadlift or it's a conventional deadlift. But, you sumo pull and I conventional pull. And we've learned that at the end of the day, they both take different body parts, to be successful. But I think what we're trying to say is at the end of the day, there's something to be said about picking up, dead weight off of the ground.
Yeah,
and,
for sure.
And lifting it. And people do that on their everyday lives, whether they know it or not. Everybody's bending over to pick something up, and there's different ways to do that. And the more that we've done it, the more we found we feel better and are stronger in consequence.
What about the squat? Let's talk about that for a second.
That's another exercise I never
That's
wanted,
like the king.
never wanted to do. So, I mean, I grew up as a soccer player and, a little different than yourself, but I never went to the gym. And if I did go to the gym, what'd I do? I did a leg press. So was scared to put that bar in my back, but have found that the squat is, I would say that's my number one exercise when it comes to, recommending to anybody, recommending to my wife, to her friends, to young kids and dads, things like that out there. Like, you need to be able to squat first. So I think it's definitely the foundation.
I agree. I think it's like the king of all. And, that brings me to another good point. If you're training at home, I think last week's episode was, pros and cons of training at home and training in a home gym. If you don't have a lot to work with, one, or two, you don't have a lot of time, these three are like the perfect go-to.
For sure.
Like, even when I'm at home, if I know I've got to get to a meeting or I've got to get to work, how many times have I done this in our workout?
Right.
I'll pound these squats, deads, or bench out, go balls to the wall, go all out. And if I don't have time to, do the accessory work, no big deal. It kind of sucks.
At least you know you got your foundation
exactly.
done.
Yeah. Exactly. At least I know I hit the big three, the ones that are important on that day, that specific. So I would definitely recommend that to other people. If you're at home and you're training and you got 30 minutes to go bang it out, your go-to is a squat, dead, or bench.
For sure.
Hit that first.
I 100% agree. And I think, the athletes that I was around, I always explained to them that we're going to squat in some variation all the time. Even personal training, my wife, when we hang out and we work out together, at least we know we can squat together because, that's just a simple movement that she feels comfortable with, I feel comfortable with. It's just such the foundation. And,
Even Yvonne, I keep trying to tell her that, she had knee surgery, I think going on 2 years ago now, and she can't load her knees up, but she can still squat.
Correct.
You know what I mean? She can hold light dumbbells in her hand, which is still firing her glutes, still firing her lower back, still firing her quads. So there's advantages to it, whether you've got 135 pounds on a bar, or you've got 500 pounds on a bar.
For sure.
For men versus women, it doesn't matter. You're still firing those muscles. That's the whole point behind it. But talk for a minute about how you approached when you were strength coach, having new athletes come in the gym who have never done all three of these. You mentioned the hip hinge a minute ago, but where do you start with these kids?
Yeah, I think
that'll help other people try to understand it for themselves as well. I mentioned how I did it, and I did it because I was psyching myself out.
Right.
And I know how I overcame that, and that's what I just talked about. But for those of you who you don't have to psych yourself out, you know what I mean? You just honestly flat out don't know.
Right.
And it drives me crazy, and it blows my mind sometimes when I find out how many people honestly just don't know how to do it.
Yep, for sure. And I think, some people would say you got to be able to do a body weight squat before you can put a bar on your back. You've got to be able to do a proper push-up before you put a chest across your chest or a bar across your chest. And, there's something to be said about that. But at the end of the day, if you can't do a push-up, how are you going to get stronger in order to do that push-up? Yes, you can do different push-up variations, but at the end of the day, weight in your hands will help with that carryover. Same thing with a squat. How are you going to know what their movement pattern looks like before you load it slightly? Even if it's just putting an empty bar on that back end. So many people that I've worked with, I think you have to put that bar on the back and work slowly, but you have to get to a point where there's a little bit of uncomfortableness, because once you add that load, you do see the deficiencies. You do see, like you said, are their ankles tight? Are their hips tight? Is it a lower back issue? Is it an upper back issue?
Heels coming up.
Yeah, is it core strength? But, you can't be afraid to take it to that point. And I think it all goes back to, having your teaching points and having a standard of what you're looking for. And I think coming full circle, what I always started with was full range of motion. A push-up and a bodyweight squat are both full range of motion movements. So when you put a bar on a chest, that's touching the bar to your chest. When that's a squat, I believe in like the top of the quad being parallel before you can actually call it a squat. And I think anybody, getting back into it maybe or starting for the first time, if they can hold true to those two things, no matter what the weight is, then they'll have success and they'll have, strength come right after that.
Easy way to do that is your phone.
Yep.
I mean, I know it sounds corny, it sounds stupid, but I still do that even now. If you guys aren't with me at my house training or wherever I'm at, and if I'm doing something, a weight or a rep range or something that I know that I'm not really used to, I'll set my phone up.
Right.
And I'll set it up on a profile, and I'll check my depth, make sure the bar pattern's moving the right way, what have you. So that's a good way, I think, for a beginner to learn also. Is they can set it up, do it, watch it, and say, shit, I didn't go down low enough, or, I'm rocking forward, or, whatever the case may be. I think that's a good,
no doubt,
good little trick there. What about a bench press?
Yeah.
Everybody wants to bench.
Everybody wants to bench, but it's still amazing how many people bench with poor technique. And I know you talked about that a lot in the Alpha 40. It seems like an easy exercise, but so many people don't understand that. I think it's a total body exercise.
It is. If it's done right, it's a full body workout.
When you finally understand that your legs and your glutes are involved in a bench press and your back has so much to do with it, it's a totally different exercise. And like you said, we keep talking about like core strength, and people are like, well, you don't need core strength to bench press. Well, yeah, you do.
Oh yeah.
When you want to push something or you want to push something over, you got to use your core. So, I mean, the bench press, like I said, going back to my soccer days, yeah, when I went into the gym, I wanted to bench press because I thought that would make me, look better, feel better, be better and everything like that. But then, my mentor really taught me, how to properly bench press, and it was a world of change and difference.
I can remember, I think you and I were joking about this the other day because we did some barbell incline.
Right.
And we hadn't done that. Like I hadn't inclined, and I guarantee you it's been 2 years prior before I'd done any kind of barbell incline anyway. And I can remember at one point competing, I never flat benched. I never really had to though. I was able to build a big chest using plate-loaded machines in the gym of all variations. You had the big wide plate press. You had the incline plate press. I mean, you could do a whole chest workout and never touch a barbell.
Right. Still can. If you want
still
to.
can. Yeah, absolutely. I think you would pay for it later. I know I did. So I'm not recommending that. But, at one point, I could barbell incline double what I could flat bench.
Right.
And it's just because I had that range of motion and that movement was so odd and uncomfortable for me, I just couldn't do it.
Right. It's crazy.
Insane. I actually got hurt a few times trying it and doing it with like 315. Nuts.
It's crazy to think about. I think a lot of women are afraid to bench press because they think that is like, a masculine exercise. But, when it comes to, upper shoulder development and everything like that for a female, like at the end of the day, you need to be able to press as well. So I think sometimes, I know my wife for sure, she tends to stray away from any kind of like pressing movements, but she's come to realize if she wants to be better at a burpee, you've got to be able to press something a little bit heavier. So
I agree. Yvonne was the same way. I think I've got her out of that mentality, especially now. She might get mad at me for saying this, but when she had her implants in, she didn't want to be bouncing a barbell off of her chest,
Right.
And I just told her, look, it's not about the weight. I'm not asking you to go heavy. Just do the range of motion, put some resistance behind it, and then we'll build off of that.
For sure.
Or even incline it.
Right.
You know what I mean? Or do an overhead press of some kind for that upper shoulder development. But, she doesn't have those big implants in anymore. So I know right the last workout.
You're gonna get in trouble for this.
Yeah, I know she's gonna yell at me for it. Why are you talking about my boobs? But no, I think it's great. I think it's great for women. And then so we've talked about the squat. Did we mention the deadlift?
Yeah, we talked about the deadlift, the squat, and the bench. And I mean, when you kind of put them all three together, like you said, I think it's the foundation. I mean, I remember like the biggest thing that I would get when young kids like came to visit like the universities that I was attending, like or that I was at. The dad or the mom would be like, "Well, what does Johnny need to do, before he comes here his freshman year?" I was like, he needs to be able to carry his own body weight. And I think this all comes kind of full circle to, like we said, the big three. And how do you carry your own body weight better? Yes, practice carrying your body weight when a lunge, a squat, and a jump and a push-up kind of thing like that. But then you've also got to load those a little bit. And I think what we're trying to say is if you give them a try, if you add them into your routine, then those three exercises can be really good building blocks to make you, A, either stronger, or B, give you the physique that you might be looking for.
Absolutely. I think the one question that I'm wanting to ask you now is big-time college athletes.
Right.
All these kids at home sitting on their couch watching ESPN, they may see these strength coaches in these gyms, and, these guys are doing bench competitions. They're throwing 225 up for, like,
40
power
times and everything.
like, explosion. And, not only – I think what I'm trying to say is I think those three exercises help even though elite athletes
100%
get bigger, faster, stronger.
100%. Yeah, I think there's something to be said about bar speed, and that's a totally different conversation. But at the end of the day, the best of the best are still doing variations of all three of these movements, and they might be a limited range of motion based on what sport they're playing, but they understand that moving these three exercises with a load at a high pace, high speed, high velocity is going to make them a better athlete.
I agree. All right, well, guys, I want you to understand the takeaway of this is the squat, the bench, and the dead. Whether you're a man, woman, child,
former bodybuilder,
whatever. Focus on these three. Put those three as the focus of your workout, and I think you're going to see some big advantages and some big changes, not only in your physique but in your health.
Right.
I know I did. I've proved that time and time again. I'm working on getting my wife worked into that. I think it's going to help her knees, but I think that's the focus.
For sure. I mean, if knock on wood, I've been injury-free. I'm 35 years old now, and I've been injury-free. I played collegiate sports. I've trained at like a high level for a long time now, and I think it's because I've done those three the whole time. And can't say that's the only reason why I've been injury-free, but I definitely think it has something to do with it. And like you said, when we talk about our comparisons and the way that we started out, this might be the reason why you're feeling so much better in the last year or two.
All right, guys, we're going to wrap it up there. If you have any questions on what we talked about today, even how to do these three, anything at all, shoot me a message on Instagram, shoot me an email. What's your Instagram?
Strength Ben.
Everybody knows mine. Shoot me an email, don@cleaneats.com. Also, look out for these Alpha 40 videos that we're putting out. We're trying to do basic movements at first, only because I think we get a lot of inquiries, just from the stupid little videos that we put out in the garage.
How do I get started?
How do I get there? I want to do that. Can I come train with you guys? Which that pumps me up. I'm like,
yeah, love it.
You can come to my house.
Yeah.
I don't give a shit. Come train. But look out for these videos. I mean, we're gonna explain these three and the importance of them again in some videos. So, but if you have any questions, get a hold of us and we'll be glad to help you. Until next time. Well, there you have it. That's our 2 cents, and that's our clean truth. For more information on Clean Eats, visit www.cleaneats.com. To find Yvonne and I on social media, on Instagram, I'm Don_Varady, Varady. To find Yvonne, it's just Yvonne Verity, all lowercase. Thank you. Have a great day, guys.